How's going, guys? Welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto unlocked the assassin bloodline and got harem in Assassin's Creed, Part 1. Huge shout out to the first Kitsukage for this story. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. All was quiet in the woods around Konohagakure no Sato. It was a normal day. Well, except if you count the giant nine-tailed demon fox attacking the village, but we shall get to that later. For now, let's go to a little cabin in the woods currently occupied by a newborn baby. Now you may be wondering, why would anyone leave a newborn alone in the woods? Well, the answer to that is simple. His father is trying to save his mother from a strange man in a mask and a black cloche emblazoned with red clouds, who has just extracted the aforementioned fox from the baby's mother, and she is half dead. Yup, sucks to be her. But getting back to the topic at hand, suddenly the cabin is illuminated by a yellow glow. As the light subsides, two people have materialized in the room. A blonde man with spiky hair, deep sea blue eyes. He is dressed in black shinobi sandals, black muscle tee, black ANBU pants, and a white sleeveless trench coat with red flames around the bottom and the kanji for 4th Hokage running down the middle of the back. The other is a red-haired woman with her hair down to her mid-back. Green eyes, wearing a black dress with a white t-shirt underneath and blue kunoichi sandals. The woman is being propped up by the man who leads her to the bed at the side of the crib containing their son. Looking down on the boy, you could tell who his father was. He had his father's blonde spiky hair and blue eyes. The blonde man reached in and picked up his son, looking the boy in his arms. The man's face turns from sad to joyous for only a moment before returning to his sad face. Turning to leave with his son in his arms, the Yondaime Hokage spoke with sadness and pain in his voice. Naruto, I am sorry that I must place this burden upon you, but know this: do this to you not only to save the village, but also to give you the strength you will need to survive in this cruel ninja world, to protect yourself and your loved ones, to carry on mine and your mother's legacy, and to control your own destiny. Know that your mother and I both love you, and that I do this as a last resort. I mean, what kind of man would I be if I placed this burden upon someone else's child when I have one of my own? I may not be a good father, but I am a damn good Hokage. I have asked Gigi to look after you, but I know he will struggle. Do not hate him for this, Naruto, for he will do his best. I have also left orders for you to be seen as a hero, but I don't think that will happen. I would send you somewhere safe, but with the enemies I have made in life, nowhere will be safe. But I know you will survive and become a great man and make me and your mother proud. But please know I am sorry, my son, I truly am. Sobbing as he finished his speech, the Yondaime turned to look at his wife, who was crying as well. Then in a yellow flash he was gone, reappearing atop the Hokage tower. He gently placed his son down. He turned to look at the village, his village, the village he swore to protect, and spoke. Well, Gigi, looks like you're coming out of retirement in the morning. I truly am sorry, but I won't be coming back from this one, nor will Kushina. Look after Naruto as best you can, teach him of the will of fire and make him into a fine man. Turning, he started to run through hand signs at great speed before slamming his hand into the ground and shouting summoning jutsu, and with a poof of smoke a small toad stood before him. Looking up at the Yondaime, the toad smiled and said, Hey Minato, how's it going? Smiling at the toad before a serious face fell over the Yondaime, who quickly stated, Hey, listen up, I got a message for you to pass on to Boss Toad. Tell him to gear up and quickly. We're going fox hunting. Nodding, the toad disappeared in another poof of smoke. Turning, the Yondaime picked Naruto up before disappearing in another yellow flash, only to reappear in the woods near the battle with the fox. Running through some hand signs and slamming his hand into the ground, he yells summoning jutsu, throwing up a huge cloud of smoke, which when dispelled by the wind shows a huge toad with a sword strapped to his side and a blue jacket on. He looked down and said, So Bunta, you ready for this? Bunta nodded and leapt into the air, landing in front of the fox, and the rest, as that say, is history. 5 years later, throughout Konoha, the villagers, both civilian and ninja alike, celebrated the day the Kyuubi was defeated. They drink, eat, and be merry. That is, everyone except one little 5-year-old blonde boy who is at this moment running for his life from the horde of drunken, angry villagers. So far he had managed to stay ahead of the mob, which is no mean feat for a 5-year-old, but it appears that Kami-sama hates him. He turns a corner and runs into a dead end. Turning to face his attackers, the small boy starts to cry. Why? Was all he could make himself say. The answer he gets from the mob freezes him to his very soul. Because you are a monster, a demon, an abomination, and you deserve to die. The small boy just tensed, expecting a beating, channeling his chakra to all points of his body to lessen the pain and injuries. He opened his eyes to see the world had darkened, but he knew it was still midday, and he was facing a mob of what looked like red people with one lone gold person in the middle. Surprised, he stopped channeling his chakra and the world returned to normal. Looking at the space that was formerly occupied by the lone gold man, he saw that he was the only ninja in the mob. He also realized that he was the one that spoke, the one that called him a monster, a demon, an abomination. Then he heard a voice in his head: "Fight them, Naruto. Fight them and defend yourself. Don't be their punching bag anymore." Now, being rather mature for a 5-year-old, Naruto knew the voice was in his head but decided to listen to it. Looking around the small ally, he saw a fallen tree branch approximately the length on a ninjata and thick enough to be used to block one. It was then that a light bulb went off in his brain. "I don't know how to fight," he thought, and was surprised when he got a reply: "I can fix that." As soon as the voice finished, images passed through Naruto's mind, images of a man in a white hoodie fighting with a long metal stick, and as quickly as the images came they were gone. "I have done what I can. Good luck, Naruto." Closing his eyes, he mentally thanked his savoir, whoever he was, and starts channeling chakra to his eyes and readies himself for what was to come. But just as he was about to rush in, 2 men dropped down into the ally besides him. Quickly looking at each of them, he saw to his own relief that they weren't red but blue. Wondering what this meant, he heard the voice once more: "It means they are allies. Red means they are a threat. Gold means they are important, usually your target. White means they are indifferent, and blue means they will help you. Now stop the chakra flow and look upon your allies," the voice stated. Complying, Naruto stopped his chakra flow and looked upon the 2 men that had come to his aid. Both were male. One had silver hair that must use a lot of product to keep in the man's chosen style. He wore dark blue shinobi sandals, a dark blue ninja top, dark blue ANBU pants, a regular jonin vest, and had his headband over his right eye. The other had black hair done in a bowl cut, huge eyebrows, a green spandex bodysuit, blue shinobi sandals, a jonin vest, and wore his headband as a belt. Turning to look at the mob, Naruto tightened his grip on the branch. He was surprised to see that the arrival of the 2 jonin had scared of most of the mob, leaving only 19 civilians and the ninja. Naruto readied himself for the fight at hand. Looking at the ringleader, he simply smiled and said in a soft, kind voice, "So I'm a monster, am I? A demon? An abomination? I'm not the one who's chasing a freaking 5-year-old with the intent to beat him to within an inch of his life and leave him to die in a freaking ally. I'm not the monster here, you are." And with that said, he rushed in, much to the surprise of everyone. The green-clad man looked at his silver-haired companion and said, "Kakashi, my eternal rival, should we not help this young boy?" Looking up from his little orange book, Kakashi looked at his green-clad companion and asked, You say something, Guy?" Before Guy could reply, there was a scream causing both men to turn to the fight they had almost forgotten about. Their eyes went wide when they saw what had happened. In the space of their short conversation, everyone except Naruto and the ninja were on the floor, knocked out. Looking at Naruto, their eyes widened even further, this time not in surprise but in horror at the sight of the 5-year-old with a sword in his left shoulder. They were about to run into his aid when the ninja ran through hand signs at a speed only Kakashi's Sharingan could follow before casting a paralysis jutsu on the 2 jonin, causing them to drop to the floor, unable to move or save Naruto. The ninja then turned back to Naruto and drew his sword out of the blonde's shoulder, causing a spurt of blood and a scream of pain from the boy. Looking at him with hate in his eyes, the ninja stated to talk. "Now to finish what the yandame started. Now to kill you, demon, but first I'm going to tell you why everyone hates you, why you deserve to die." The look of confusion on Naruto's face just enraged the ninja more, causing him to kick the boy in the face. "You have no doubt heard the tale of the yandame's fight with the Kyuubi 5 years ago today, where the yandame fought and killed the beast." The ninja paused to allow Naruto to nod, before continuing. "Well, it is a lie. The Kyuubi is an immortal demon. No one, not even the yandame, could kill it, so he did the next best thing. He sealed it away into the body of a newborn baby at the cost of his own life." Naruto, not likening where this was going, prayed to everything he could think of not to let the ninja say what he knew was coming. "You boy are that child, you boy are the Kyuubi." After hearing this, Naruto was shocked. Suddenly memories of his life flashed through his mind, memories of everything the people who chased and beat him told him. Every insult shouted at him, Every dirty look he ever got, and every time he was refused service or charged stupid prices for everything, all these memories flooded his brain, and then his brain shut down, and he thought, I'm a demon, it's my fault the yondaime died. It's my fault so many people died, oh Kami, I deserve to die. Then the voice from before spoke to him again, you are not the Kyuubi Naruto, you are its cage, its prison, you are the jailer, not the prisoner, and every day you live you protect this village from the fox. Closing his eyes, Naruto asked the voice, how can you be sure I'm not the monster? The voice in his head sighed before answering, because I know seals, trust me Naruto, think of it this way, if you sheath a sword, does the sheath become the sword? After hearing that, Naruto knew the voice was right. Naruto opened his eyes and stood with new determination on his face. The ninja, seeing this as a challenge, ran at Naruto and thrust his sword at Naruto's head. Naruto quickly dogged to the left of the blade, grabbed the ninja's wrist, and twisted with more force than a 5-year-old should be able to, disarming the ninja. The ninja was surprised by Naruto's strength, but what surprised him more was the amount of killing intent that radiated off of Naruto. He was drawn from his shock when Naruto slammed a fist into his face, sending him flying into a wall. He looked up into Naruto's usually calm, caring blue eyes to see them full of anger, and he heard Naruto calmly say, no, I'm not the Kyuubi, I am its container, its prison and its jailer. I am Naruto Uzumaki, the future Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato and more. Importantly, I'm the 5-year-old kid that's going to kick your worthless ass. And with that said, Naruto delivered a kick to the ninja's face, knocking him out. Turning to the two jonin, he did something that they were not expecting. He bowed to them and said, thank you for coming to my aid, may I ask you your name? That was as far as he got before he passed out and fell into the waiting arms of Kakashi. You did a good job, Naruto, Minato would be proud, Kakashi said before he and Guy disappeared in a poof of smoke. When Naruto awoke, he was in a room he did not recognize. He sat up quickly only to wince and grab his shoulder in pain. Looking around, he saw a door. Standing shakily, Naruto set off towards the door only to be stopped by a hand on his shoulder. Looking up, Naruto saw an Anbu with a Nico mask. He was about to ask what was happening when they both disappeared in a poof of smoke. When they reappeared, that were both stood in the council chamber. Naruto looked around at his surroundings and suddenly felt very small. To his left were the clan heads, to his right the civilian counselors, and in front of him was the Sandaime Hokage. His two advisors and a strange-looking man with half his face hidden by bandages, and his right arm held tightly to his chest. Naruto looked at the Hokage with a questioning look. It was then he saw the sad look on the Sandaime's face. The Sandaime then stood, and in a sad voice said, Naruto, you are hereby under arrest on the charge of assault and you restrain him. Naruto looked up at the Sandaime Hokage for where he was being restrained by two Anbu. One had a Nico mask, the other had a Sara mask. Naruto was confused to say the least. What do you mean, Gigi? He asked. The stunned gasps from the civilian counselors barely covered the knowing chuckles from the clan heads. Show the Sandaime some respect, Gaki, he is the leader of this village, one of the civilians shouted. Looking to the person who shouted, Naruto saw a pink-haired woman standing and pointing at him. Now Haruno-sen, no need to shout, but she is right, Naruto, while in the council chambers please call me Hokage, the Sandaime said. Looking at the Hokage, Naruto smiled and said, Okay Hokage Gigi, causing one of the clan heads to break out in howling laughter. Sima Inuzuka, control yourself please, the Hokage almost yelled, a vein in his forehead bulging to the point that it could burst at any time. Hi Hokage-sama, she said, deciding not to call him Gigi. As I was saying, Naruto, you are here to answer to the charges of assault on 19 civilians and 1 ninja, the Sandaime said, getting back to the matter at hand. Naruto thought for a moment before asking, What's assault? The Sandaime sighed. It means attacking without reason, Naruto, he explained. Naruto smiled to himself. In that case I did not assault anyone, he said. That's bull and you know it, Gaki, Haruno shouted again. Naruto sighed. Okay, 1, it's not bull, they attacked me. 2, I only kicked their ass after they backed me into a dead end and I have witnesses. And 3, will you please for the love of Kami stop shouting, you banshee, you're giving me a migraine, Naruto shouted, letting off a little killing intent to the surprise of everyone. Naruto, that's enough now, who are these witnesses? The Sandaime asked. Naruto took a deep calming breath before answering the Hokage's question. I don't know their names, Bu, was as far as he got before the banshee struck again. I knew it, you're lying, you little demo. I mean Gaki. She stopped herself just in time to save her head. Naruto just looked at her and said, Go on, say it, it's not like I don't already know what I am, or should I say what you brainless bakas think I am? Causing gasps of shock and surprise from everyone. Who told you, Naruto? The Sandaime asked. Naruto looked at the Hokage and said, The ninja whose ass I kicked after he stabbed me in the shoulder. Anyway, as I was saying before I was interrupted. At this point Naruto scowled in the direction of Haruno-san, as the Hokage had called her. I don't know their names, but I can describe them. And with that Naruto described Kakashi and Guy to the counselors and Hokage. While he waited for the Hokage to do whatever he was going to do with the info, Naruto activated his new power. Channeling chakra to his eyes, the world darkened. Naruto was surprised by what he saw. The entire civilian council was red. Now he was expecting this. What surprised him was the fact that the Hokage's advisors and the man with the bandages over the left side of his face were red as well. Looking at the clan heads, he was even more surprised. All of them except one were blue. The one that was not blue had an outline of blue with what looked like white polka dots running through him. Naruto stopped channeling his chakra and looked at the man with the strange signal and recognized him as the head of the Aburame clan. He then looked at the Hokage, who was looking at him. Are you certain of these descriptions, Naruto? The Sandaime asked. Naruto was confused at the Hokage's question. Yes, I am I mean Hokage-sama, why? Naruto asked. The Hokage pushed a button on his desk and 2 more ANBU came into the council chambers. Would the 2 of you please bring Kakashi and Guy here ASAP? He said to the 2 ANBU, who simply replied, Hi, before disappearing in twin poofs of smoke. 10 minutes later they returned with Kakashi and Guy in tow. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Do you know why you have been summoned? The Sandaime asked the 2 jonin. Kakashi was the one who answered, saying, I'm guessing we're here to corroborate young Naruto's story. The Hokage nodded and waited for one of the 2 jonin to start. Well, myself and Kakashi were in the middle of a rooftop race when we saw an angry mob chasing young Naruto, so we decided to follow them and make sure they did not harm the boy. They chased him into a dead-end alley, so we decided to drop into the alley to ensure nothing happened to his flame of youth. When we dropped in, all but 20 of the mob fled. That was when young Naruto grabbed a fallen tree branch to defend himself and rushed the mob. Before myself and Kakashi could aid him, he had floored all but one of the mob, the lone ninja who stabbed him in the shoulder and cast a strong paralysis genjutsu on me and Kakashi before withdrawing the sword from young Naruto's shoulder and informing him of his burden. He then made to stab Naruto in the head, but Naruto dodged the blade and disarmed the ninja before proceeding to punching him in the face, sending him flying into a wall. He then kicked the ninja in the head, knocking him out. Naruto then came up to Kakashi and myself and thanked us for trying to help him. It was then that he passed out, and Kakashi caught him and took him to your office while I took the ninja to the TNI department, and I believe you know what happened after that. Guy explained, and silence fell over the council chamber. To say they were surprised was an understatement. The thought of a 5-year-old boy beating not only 19 civilians but also a ninja, albeit a subpar one, on his own with a stick was too much for many of them to take. Can I go now, Gigi? I have to find some place to sleep tonight, Naruto said, breaking the Sandaime out of his thoughts. What do you mean, Naruto? What about the orphanage? He asked. Naruto's face suddenly saddened before he said, They kicked me out, said I was an adult now, 'cause of some law the civilian council passed, and 'cause I'm an adult I can't stay in the orphanage. After hearing this, the Sandaime was just a touch irate, and by that I mean he was pisses off. He glared at the civilian council. Is this true? He almost growled at them. Yes, Hokage-sama, we passed that law approximately 3 weeks ago, you were informed. One of the counselors said. This RELY pissed off the Hokage. Like hell I was informed. Had I been, I would have done everything in my power to stop you from ruining a fucking 5-year-old's life. The Sandaime shouted at the counselor, letting of enough killing intent to make all of the civilians fall to the ground unable to breathe, and even some of the clan heads uncomfortable. It was then that he remembered that Naruto was in the room and spun around to look at him, ready to apologize, but was surprised to see him sat on the floor picking his nails, not affected in the least. Smiling at the boy who was like a grandson to him, the Sandaime said, Okay, Naruto, you can go, but come to my office tomorrow and we will discuss your living arrangements. Smiling at the Hokage, Naruto stood up and said, Okay, Gigi, see you tomorrow. And with that Naruto stood and walked from the room. Turning to look at the civilian council, the Sandaime smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Now would any of you care to tell me why you made Naruto an adult? He asked a little too sweetly. Well, he was ruining the other children's chances of adoption, and we needed to get him out of the orphanage. As a child he had every right to stay there, so we made him an adult, and removed that right. One of the counselors said before dropping to the floor again due to the killing intent. The Sandaime and the clan heads excreting. The Hokage was about to go over and choke the life out of the idiot who came up with that plan, assuming it was that damnable banshee of a woman, but decided against it. Taking a deep, calming breath, he rose and in a calm, calculated voice said, Well, as this meeting is over and there is nothing else to discuss, you are dismissed, but know that if you pull another fucking stunt like that, I will kill you myself, and to hell with the consequences. He said, smiling darkly as he headed to the door and headed to his office. He slumped into his chair with a sigh before reaching into a hidden drawer and bringing out a little orange book and opening it to where he was before. Being called to the council meeting, he started reading and giggling like a cretin former student of his until there was a knock on his office door. Hiding the book and quickly picking up a piece of paperwork from his desk, he shouted, Enter! The door opened to reveal Kakashi with a serious look on his face. This unnerved the Hokage, as it was not a look Kakashi usually had. In fact, he had seen it only once before, the day Kakashi had come to tell him of an attempt on Naruto's life that had hospitalized the then 3-year-old for a week, and would have killed someone without a bijou sealed within them. What is it, Kakashi? The Sandaime asked in a voice full of concern. Tell me you knew nothing of Naruto being kicked out of the orphanage. Tell me you had no part in his being made an adult. Kakashi said with anger in his voice. Don't worry, Kakashi, I had no part in it. I would never ruin Naruto's life like that, the Sandaime said. Kakashi sighed. Sorry for that, Hokage-sama, I was just concerned, Kakashi explained. It's okay, Kakashi, I would be if I was in your position. He is your sensei's son after all, the Hokage said. Kakashi I smiled before turning to leave and saying, Sorry for disturbing you, enjoy your reading, Hokage-sama, he said as he left, causing the Sandaime to smile and think so much like his father before he pulled his book from the drawer and started reading again. Walking into the Sandaime's office the next day, Naruto could not help but think back to the council meeting the previous day, or for that matter what had happened to him afterwards. Flashback no jutsu. Having just left the council chambers, Naruto headed to the woods to find a nice tree to sleep in and to find a somewhere to train and blow off some steam. On the way he decided to activate his new dojutsu and see how it affected his outlook on life. Channeling his chakra to his eyes, his view changed and darkened, and the people around him took on a red glow. To his surprise, there were a few blue people mixed into the crowd of red. He stopped channeling his chakra and looked from face to face. It was then that he heard someone shout, Here he is, I've found the demon brat. Looking at the source of the sound, Naruto saw one of the civilians he had fought. Realizing what the man had said, Naruto looked to the growing mob and only had one thought, and felt the need to give it voice. Oh, for fuck's sake, not this again, he growled. He turned to run and saw a mob of civilians had formed behind him as well. Cursing his look, Naruto turned to look to the right and saw a shop. He looked left to see a dead-end ally. Oh crap, he said, suddenly realizing he was trapped. Just as he was about to run into the mob behind him, as it was slightly smaller, a smoke bomb was thrown into the street, and someone shouted, Come on, kid, quickly before the smoke dissipates. Deciding to take his chances with the man who had shouted, Naruto ran towards the voice. When he was nearly at the place the voice came from, a hand grabbed him by the collar and threw him into a room. Naruto tensed, expecting to hit the ground hard, but instead was caught in mid-flight. When Naruto looked up, he saw a woman smiling down at him. The woman appeared to be in her mid-20s. She had long brown hair and brown eyes. She smiled at him and put him carefully down on the floor. It was then that she spoke to him. Don't worry, child, we mean you no harm, she said. It was then that he heard a voice coming from outside. He ran that way, the voice said. The door to the room he was in then opened, and a man walked in. Are you okay, child? Do not worry, I'm sorry if I startled you with the rough treatment. The man said he had black hair and brown eyes. He smiled at Naruto, who rubbed the back of his head. I know, I was just startled. I'm not used to people other than Gigi and the Ikarakas being nice to me, he said, startled. The two adults, they were about to say something when there was a knock on the door, and S small feminine voice shouted, Hey Dad. Open up, it's me, she said. The man smiled and opened the door. Hello dear, how was your training today? He asked the girl who was standing in the doorway. She had brown hair tied up into 2 buns and brown eyes. She wore a pink Chinese-style top and green shorts. It was okay, Dad. Why was the door locked, and who's he? She responded. Her father looked down at her and smiled. This is Naruto Uzumaki, he said. The young girl smiled and looked at Naruto before saying, Nice to meet you, Naruto, I'm Tenten. She then turned to her father. So why was the door locked? She asked. It was Naruto that answered. 'Cause your dad saved me from a mob of civilians that wanted to kill me, he said in a voice that made Tenten think that it happened a lot. Why was a mob trying to kill you? She asked, and almost instantly wished she hadn't when she saw the sadness in the boy's blue eyes. 'Cause they think I'm something I'm not, he said. Tenten looked at the blonde boy and felt all his sadness wash over her. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. Stupid Tenten, she said, hitting herself in the head. Naruto put his hand on her shoulder and smiled, though Tenten could see it was fake. That's okay, no need to hit yourself in the head, Tenten, Naruto said. Tenten smiled. It was then that the 2 kids heard someone go, Alwu. In a cutesy voice, they both turned to look at Tenten's father as he put away a disposable camera. It was then that Naruto remembered something. Thank you for saving me, he said, looking at the man in front of him, and bowing. This mad the man burst out laughing. Naruto stood from his bow and gave the man a "Are you freaking crazy" look. The man smiled at him and said, You don't need to thank me, Naruto. My name is Tenken and the woman over there is my lovely wife Doki, and if you need weapons then we're the people to come to, he said proudly. So you and Doki are weaponsmiths? He asked. Tenken smiled and said, Well, I am. Doki is more of an instructor on how to use the weapons I make. Naruto looked at Tenten and smiled before saying, So Tenten, are you going to be a ninja? He asked. Tenten smiled and nodded. Yep, I'm going to prove that Kunoichi can be just as strong as Shinobi, she said proudly. Naruto was confused. He looked at Tenten and said, Why would Kunoichi be weaker than Shinobi? This made Tenten and Doki smile. Anyway, with a weaponsmith and an instructor as parent, you're going to be an awesome Kunoichi, Naruto said slightly sadly. Tenten picked up on this and asked, What about you, Naruto? What do your parents do? And again wished she hadn't. Naruto's face saddened again, but only for a second before his fake smile returned. I don't have any, I'm an orphan, he said. Once again Tenten started smacking herself on the head. Sorry, I didn't know, stupid Tenten, she said. Naruto smiled, this time a real smile. You know you should really stop doing that, you'll hurt yourself. Besides, you said it yourself you didn't know, so no harm done, he said as he looked into Tenten's chocolate brown eyes that were on the verge of tears. Hey now, no need to cry, see I'm fine. Or did you hit yourself that hard that you actually hurt yourself? He said, laughing. Tenten laughed as well. You know you're funny. So you want to be friends? She asked. This startled Naruto. You actually want to be my friend? He asked. Tenten gave him a strange look. Sure I do, why do you think I asked? She said. Naruto smiled at his new friend's response and said, Sure, I'll be your friend, Tenten. I was just surprised, I don't really have any friends. Well, there was Lee at the orphanage, but he was more of a rival, he said, stunning the girl and her parents. You really don't have any friends, Naruto? She asked. Naruto's face saddened. Nope, other than you and Lee. Like I said, when I was at the orphanage I didn't play with the other kids, 'cause when I tried the adults would shout at me and punish me, he said. He then looked up at the wall and shouted, Oh, Kyuso forgot to go. Thanks for saving me, Tenken, Doki, and it was nice to meet you. Same to you, Tenten, I'll see you around, he shouted as he ran out of the shop. As they watched the blonde boy run, Tenten looked up at her parent and said, Well, he seems nice, too bad he was so unhappy. I can't think of why anyone would hate him, she said. Her parents gave her confused looks and she sighed. Don't tell me you miss the pain, sadness and loneliness in his eyes. Don't tell me you were fooled by the mask of happiness he plastered over his face. I'm starting to worry about his sanity, Tenten said. Tenken frowned and thought, I'm sorry I haven't done more for your son, my friend. Flashback no Jutsu Kai. Walking into the Sandame's office, Naruto saw the aged Hokage with the 2 ninja that had come to his aid in the ally the day before. Morning, Gigi, so how are you today? he asked. The Hokage smiled at the young blonde boy he thought of as another grandson. I'm okay, thank you, Naruto. So let's get down to business. Here is the lease to your new apartment, the keys, and the first payment from the Orphans Fund. These payments will be weekly, but you will be expected to live off of it for the week. It's not much, but at least it's a place to live, he said, smiling at Naruto, who smiled back. Thank you, Gigi, he said. He then looked at the other two men in the room. And thank you both for coming to my aid. It's good to know that not everyone is stupid enough to think I am what I contain, he added, smiling. If it's okay with you, Gigi, I need to get going. I have some training to do. Is there anything else you need? He asked. The Hokage smiled, as did Guy and Kakashi. No, you are free to go, Naruto. Have a good day, and if you need anything, come see me, the Hokage said. Naruto smiled at the old man and said, I will do. Well, see ya, Gigi, he said as he turned to walk away, and with a wave he was gone. Leaving the Sandame's office, Naruto set off walking to his new home. On a whim, he decided to activate his new power. Hang on a second, I still don't know the name of my bloodline, he thought. It was then that he heard a familiar voice in his mind. It is called the Eagle Vision. Naruto activated his Eagle Vision and saw a slight gold glow in an alleyway. Remembering what the voice in his head said, he followed the gold glow. Hey, I don't know your name yet, he thought. The voice in his head chuckled. You may call me Nami, the voice said. Naruto smiled. It was then that he got to a corner. Looking around the corner, Naruto saw two red blobs advancing on a small gold blob. Deactivating his Eagle Vision, he saw that the small gold blob was actually a girl no older than him. She had black shoulder-length hair and white pupilless eyes. She wore a black top and shorts. His blood came to a boil when he saw that the two men had swords and were advancing on the small girl, realizing killing intent. It was then he heard one of the men say, You are a failure as a person, child. You are an embarrassment to the clan. You are weak, and for that you must be punished. The man took 2 steps before his eyes rolled into the back of his head and he fell to the ground, holding his crotch and writhing in pain. The other man turned around just in time to see a 2x4 swinging for his head. He put his arm up to block the attack and received a kick in the groin for his troubles, joining his friend on the floor holding his crotch. Looking up, the men saw a blond boy with blue eyes and 3 whisker marks. One of the men growled. You, what do you think you're doing? He asked. Naruto smiled at him before stamping on his face, breaking his nose, removing some teeth, and knocking his out. He then turned to the other man who had just regained his senses. What the hell do you two bastards think you're fucking doing? What sort of jack-off attacks a little girl spouting some bullshit about it being her fault? You know what I really hate? Scum like you, if anyone deserves an ass kicking at you. He growled, letting of killing intent that the Hokage could feel in his office as he walked over, smiling darkly. He stood over the man and planted his foot into the man's face, giving him roughly the same injuries as the first man. He then turned around, still letting out enough killing intent to worry a Kage. He took a deep breath and calmed himself before smiling at the girl. You okay? He asked. Looking at the face of the boy who saved her, she blushed and nodded. Why, yes, I am okay, thank you, she said. Naruto smiled and reached out his hand to help her up. She took it, still blushing. So you're a Hyuga then? He asked. The girl nodded and said, I'm Hinata Hyuga, it's nice to meet you, she said, smiling. Naruto smiled wider and said, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, it's nice to meet you as well. Wait, did you say Hinata, as in the Hyuga heiress? He asked. Hinata nodded shyly. He's going to get all proper and treat me like an old lady just like everyone else, she thought. Naruto smiled. Well then, Hinata-chan, do you want me to walk you back to the Hyuga compound? Naruto asked. Hinata smiled wider. That would be nice, Naruto-kun, she said. And with that the two walked to the Hyuga compound. The walk went without incident until they got to the Hyuga compound gate. When they arrived at the gates, Naruto activated his Eagle Vision and looked at the 2 gate guards. He was not surprised to see that they were red. Deactivating his dojutsu, Naruto smiled at the guards. Good evening, would one of you fine gentlemen be so kind as to alert Lord Hyuga that I wish to speak to him? He said in a surprisingly formal tone for a 5-year-old. The guards were about to tell Naruto where to shove it when they caught sight of Hinata. It was then that the 2 men snapped. What are you doing with Lady Hinata, you demon? One of them asked. Hinata was appalled by the fact that one of her family members would call a 5-year-old such a thing. Naruto, on the other hand, just sighed and shook his head. I was escorting her home after 2 ninja made an attempt on her life, That is why I wished to speak to Lord Hyuga, he said in a cold tone. The two men looked at Hinata and asked, Is this true, Lady Hinata? Hinata nodded. It is true, Naruto-kun saved me from the attack, she said. This stunned the two guards. They didn't think that the demon would have saved Hinata. They let the two children in and escorted them to the lobby where they waited for Hinata's father. So, you going to tell me what all that was about? Naruto asked. Hinata sighed before answering. Those two men were members of the branch family of the Hyuga clan. They thought I was weak to be named as clan heiress, she said sadly. It was then that she felt a huge amount of killing intent fill the room. Looking around, she was even more surprised to see it coming from her new friend. You're telling me that those bastards were your family? He asked in an angry voice. Hinata nodded dumbly, too shocked to say anything. They would actually attach and attempt to kill their own family because they thought they were weak. Suddenly I regret not beating them to within an inch of their life. Naruto growled before taking a deep breath to calm himself. Looking at the door, he saw a man who had entered while Naruto was enraged and not really paying attention. He recognized the man as the Hyuga clan head. Activating his eagle vision, Naruto saw that the man had a blue aura. Naruto sighed and deactivated his dojutsu. He then looked the man in his pupilless eyes before looking him over from head to foot. He wore a white kimono and black sandals. He had black hair down to his mid-back and pupilless eyes. Smiling at the man, Naruto said, Hello. Lord Hyuga-sama, I wish to inform you of an attempt on your daughter's life. Luckily it failed, he said in an official voice. Hinata's father smiled at the blonde boy in front of him. Thank you for bringing her home, Naruto, and please call me Hayashi, he said. Naruto smiled at the man. Thank you, Hayashi-sama, Naruto said as he bowed to the man, who burst out laughing. What is it, father? Hinata asked, surprised that her father actually knew how to laugh. The same question was running through Naruto's mind. Hayashi smiled. Sorry, I'm just laughing at the fact the boy who calls Hokage-sama Gigi is calling me Sama and bowing after he just saved my daughter from an attempt on her life, he said. When he looked at it from Hayashi's point of view, Naruto burst out laughing. Hinata was shocked that the boy who had saved her was informal with the Hokage, but she smiled when she saw her father's point. Looking at his daughter, Hayashi asked, Are you okay? Did that hurt you? What happened? Hinata smiles at her father's show of emotion towards her. I'm fine, father, they didn't hurt me. Naruto-kun stopped them before they could do anything. As for what happened, two branch family ninja grabbed me and took me into an ally. They said I was weak and that they were going to kill me for it, but Naruto-kun arrived and saved me, she said, growing sad at the fact that she was weak. Hayashi was furious for a second before his face softened. Thank Kami, you're okay. If I lost you as well as your mother, I don't know what I would do, he said to Hinata. He then turned to Naruto and bowed. Thank you for saving my daughter, Naruto said. Naruto stood shocked for a second before bursting out laughing. Hayashi looked at him with the "Are you crazy" look. Naruto smiled and said, Sorry about that, but think of it from my point of view. A 5-year-old being bowed to by the head of one of, if not the most powerful clan in Konoha, he said before bursting out laughing again. This time though, Hayashi joined him. Hinata smiled again and thought, that's twice today that Naruto has made father laugh like that. When they had all regained their composure, Naruto spoke again. You know, if you want to find the men that attacked Hinata-chan, I could probably help you, he said. Instantly Hayashi was interested. He looked at the boy and simply asked, How? Naruto smiled at the man. That should be simple. I am well aware that the Hyuga clan is a large clan and that finding 2 men in the entire clan will be difficult, but the injuries I gave them were very specific. All you have to do is look over the medical records for today and find 2 men with broken noses, missing teeth, a broken jaw, throbbing pain in the groin. Those 2 men will be the ones that tried to harm Hinata-chan, Naruto said. Hayashi was surprised not only that the boy had thought of this, but also that a 5-year-old could be so vicious. He also smiled at how much pain the bastards who tried to harm his daughter must be in. Hayashi walked over to a table on the far side of the room, grabbed an envelope and a sheet of paper, and wrote something on it before sealing the piece of paper in the envelope and sealing it with the Hyuga clan seal. He then opened the door to the lobby and passed it to a woman standing outside. Would you please pass this to our fastest courier and ask him to take it to the hospital and give it to the head doctor, he said. The woman nodded and said, Hi Hayashi-sama. and walked off to do the task at hand. Hayashi turned to look at the two children in the room and smiled. "Thank you again, Naruto," he said. Naruto smiled and said, "It's okay, Hayashi-sama, I would have done the same for anyone, even if only to prove those asshats on the council wrong," he said with a twinge of anger in his voice. Hayashi smiled again and said, "You don't need to prove them wrong, Naruto. They are wrong if I didn't believe it before I do now. Besides, I was a close friend with the one who carried this burden before you and the one who placed this burden upon you. Trust me when I say that I know the difference between a sword and a sheath," he said, startling Naruto and confusing the hell out of Hinata. "That's good to know, Hayashi-sama. Wow, 3 people in 2 days, what are the chances?" Naruto said. Hinata was still confused, but Hayashi understood. "So who is the other Naruto?" he asked. Naruto smiled. "Tenken and Doki," I said. Hayashi thought for a second and said, "Tenken is a weaponsmith, is he not? And if I recall, Doki is his wife and a weapons instructor, is she not?" he asked. Naruto smiled. "You are correct on both counts, Hayashi-sama. Why do you ask?" he asked. Hayashi's face turned sad for a moment. "Well, the weaponsmith that the Hyuga usually used passed away recently, so we are looking for a new one. Tell me, Naruto, do you trust Tenken and Doki?" he asked. Naruto was confused but nodded. "Then we have our new weaponsmith, and I think it's time that Hinata learn how to use a weapon in case someone stops her chakra flow," Hayashi said, stunning Hinata and Naruto. After a short while, Naruto smiled. "Well, I'm sure both Tenken and Doki will be happy with the added business," he said. "And I think Hinata-chan will get on with their daughter Tenten as well," he added as an afterthought. He looked up at the clock on the wall and almost shouted, "Oh sure," he said as he clamped his hand over his mouth, much to the amusement of Hayashi. "I mean, on dear me, it appears I must be leaving. I still have to find my apartment before it gets dark. If it is okay with the two of you, I will take my leave," he said in an overly proper tone, making Hayashi and Hinata laugh. "Of course, Naruto, we understand, but remember, you are always welcome at the Hyuga compound. Hinata has so few friends," Hayashi said. This stunned Naruto. "Is that true, Hinata-chan? Do you not have many friends?" he asked. Hinata nodded and said, "I'm usually shy." Naruto laughed and said, "It's okay, Hinata-chan, I only have 3 friends myself, counting you and Tenten." This made Hinata smile at the fact he counted he friend. "Well, I best be off. See ya later, Hinata-chan." "By Hayashi-sama," Naruto said as he left the room. Heading towards the main gate, he stopped when he saw some crates stacked against the wall that looked like stairs. Looking up the wall, he saw a brick that was not flush with the rest of the wall, and a missing brick, both at about the height he would be able to reach if he was climbing. It was then that images of people climbing building, running along rooftops, standing on poles, and generally looking badass ran through his mind. When the images stopped, Nami spoke to him. "It's called free running, you should try it out." Naruto shrugged and did as he was told. Taking a run up at the crates, he hopped from one to the next, then started to run up the wall. When he got to the loose brick, he grabbed it with one hand and used all his strength, more than any 5-year-old should have, I might add, to push himself up to the hole where the missing brick should be. He then reached out his hand and grabbed the top of the wall before pulling himself over it and jumping to the closest roof. "Oh, this is so fun. Why don't more people travel like this? It's awesome," he thought to himself as he headed in the direction his apartment was meant to be. When he got there, he saw a slightly run-down apartment block and shrugged. "Well, I didn't expect much. The council in their infinite wisdom must have given Gigi a hard time to get me this. I'll have to thank him for everything tomorrow when I go visit him," he said to himself as he walked up to his apartment. Opening the door, Naruto was surprised to see that there was actually some stuff in it. There was a table, a bed, a comfy-looking chair, and a fridge. "Looks like Gigi managed to get me some necessities, yet more to thank him for," he thought as he walked over to the bed and fell on it. He slept like a log for the entire night, though he did have some unusual dreams. Naruto awoke the next morning in a cold sweat and bolted upright. "Okay, what the hell were those crazy-ass dreams about Nami?" he asked the voice that lived in his head. "They were memories of one of your ancestors, Naruto, an assassin by the name of Altair ibn Lahad. He found an artifact called the Apple of Eden and fought the Templars for the good of the Brotherhood and the world. He killed many enemies to save his home, a place known to him as the Holy Lands from the Templars' influence during a time known to antiquity as the Crusades, but he was unable to wipe out the Templars' order completely," Nami explained. Okay, why are you showing me this, and will these batshit insane dreams happen a lot? Naruto asked the voice in his head, realizing that if people know he talked to a voice in his head they would probably section him. I am showing you these memories to teach you the skills necessary to become an assassin. It is your birthright. Do not worry though, I have done nothing that will harm you. As for the, as you call them, batshit insane dreams, they will happen for a couple of months while I teach you the ways of the order, Nami explained. Naruto thought for a moment before replying to Nami, I understand, but didn't expect me to start calling you sensei, he joked. In his head he heard Nami chuckle. I'll keep that in mind, was the response Nami gave. You will not remember any of what I have taught you consciously, as I have downloaded the information into your subconscious. When you need the skill for the first time, a flash of images will play through your mind teaching you the skill, but be warned, just because you have learned a skill doesn't mean you can use it, Nami added. So what do you want me today, Nami? Naruto asked. He was sure Nami smiled in his head, not that he could really tell. Today I think I'll have you go on a little treasure hunt, was Nami's reply. This got Naruto's attention, so Nami continued, somewhere in the village is a hidden scroll. All you have to do is find said scroll and you win. Simple, isn't it? Naruto was suspicious. Well, I know it won't be that easy, but whatever. So how am I meant to find the scroll? He asked. The response he got from a rather irate Nami was, open your damn eyes. Look around and follow the fucking yellow brick road. Naruto frowned and said, you know, you could have just told me to activate my eagle vision and follow the gold glow. Wait, how the hell did I understand what you meant? Okay, that's just weird. And with that he stopped talking to Nami, got dresses and went out to complete Nami's task. Wailing out of his apartment, Naruto locked the door and activated his dojutsu. Looking around he saw two faint gold glows, one in the woods and one in the Hokage's office. Deciding to check the woods first, Naruto set off in that direction. When he got close to the glow he climbed a nearby tree and activated his dojutsu. Looking into a small clearing he saw a single gold glow, but there was something unusual about it. It was more a golden outline to a whole lot of little white glows. Thinking of the only time he had seen a similar aura, Naruto realized that it was in the council chamber only a couple of days ago. He also remembered that the man with the strange aura was the head of the Aburame clan. Naruto deactivated his dojutsu and dropped into the clearing. He smiled at the young boy, who was about his age. He had black, slightly spiky hair and wore dark glasses. He also wore a gray coat with a large collar, black shinobi pants and sandals. Naruto walked over to the boy who had sensed his presence and dropped into a defensive stance. Hi, sorry if I startled you, he said. The boy lowered his guard slightly when he didn't sense any hostile intent. Who are you? The boy asked in an emotionless tone. Naruto smiled and said, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. It's nice to meet you, Aburame-san. The boy was startled when Naruto addressed him by his clan name. How do you know I am an Aburame? The boy asked. Naruto smiled. Your chakra signature is similar to another Aburame I have seen. He lied, deciding not to tell the boy about his dojutsu. The boy bought the excuse and said, My name is Shino. It's nice to meet you, Naruto. Naruto smiled and asked the question that Shino was dreading. So is it true that your clan hosted a hive of chakra-eating bugs that you use in battle? Shino sighed and nodded. He was surprised by what Naruto said next. I bet that's cool, Naruto said, and Shino could tell he meant it. You mean you're not going to tell me I'm a freak and run away? Shino asked. Naruto was stunned at what was just said. Why would I? I think it's cool, he said. Shino was about to respond when he heard his name being shouted from deeper into the woods. Shino, where are you? Recognizing the voice, Shino shouted. I'm over here, father. Within 3 minutes, a man that Naruto recognized as the head of the Aburame clan appeared in the clearing. Oh, there you are, Shino. Who's your friend? Shino's father asked, even though he knew who Naruto was. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. It's nice to meet you, Aburame-sama, Naruto replied. Smiling, Shino's father placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder. Well, it's nice to meet you, Naruto, and please call me Shibi, he said. Naruto stood and smiled. Thank you, Shibi-sama. I was just commenting to Shino how cool his tenants must be, he said, causing a quick flash of surprise to cross Shino's face and a smile to appear on his Shibi's face. Well, Naruto, it's nice to know you're not the same as most of the people in this village, he said, making Naruto smile. Yeah, I'm not one to judge people by what others say about them or what they contain. I judge people by their actions and who they actually are. he said with a twinge of sadness in his voice that was not missed by Etherbud user. Father, would it be okay if Naruto joined us for dinner? Shino asked. Shibi smiled. Of course, Shino. That is if he wants to, he said. Hearing this, Naruto smiled. I would love to. But are you sure I would not be imposing? He asked. Shibi smiled at the boy and said, Nonsense, Naruto, we would love to have you over. Shino has so few friends. This caused Naruto to look at Shino with a questioning look. Is that true, Shino? He asked. Getting a nod from Shino, he continued. I can't see why. I met you less than 10 minutes ago, and I can tell you a nice person. It's probably just the stupidity of the villagers that don't understand the difference between a sword and a sheath. This surprised Shino and Shibi until Shibi laughed slightly and said, So I see you have met Tenken and Doki then? He asked. Naruto smiled and nodded. Yep, they saved me from a mob out for my blood again, and I made friends with their daughter. He said. Shino asked. Who is Tenken's father? His father smiled down at him and said, Oh, that's right, I haven't introduced you to them yet. Tenken and his wife Doki own a weapons shop. It was Tenken that made the sword that is hung in my study. He explained. Shino smiled. I see, he said. This made Naruto smile as well. So Naruto, are you going to join us for dinner? Shibi asked. Naruto smiled wider. Of course, Shibi-sama, I would be honored, he said, and with that they set off to the Aburame clan compound. On the way, Naruto decided to ask, So Shino, other than me, who are you friends with? Shino smiled slightly and gave Naruto a questioning look. Why do you ask, Naruto? He asked. Naruto smiled at the boy. Well, if they're smart enough to not listen to what most of the village said about you and you trust them, then I will as well, he said, making Shibi smile and Shino nod at the logic. Well, other than you, my only real friend is Hinata-chan, he said. Naruto frowned for a second, then smiled and said, So you're friends with Hinata-chan as well? He asked. Shino nodded and Naruto added, That's good, she's fun and her dad really laughs a lot. This made Shibi stop for a second and looked at Naruto. You actually made him laugh? He asked. Naruto nodded and said, Yep, in fact I made him laugh twice. This made Shibi smile and say, The only people that ever made Hayashi laugh before were his former teammate, the Yondaime, and a dear friend of ours, Kushina. How did you make him laugh? He asked. Naruto smiled. Well, the first time I called him Sama, which made him laugh 'cause I called the Hokage Gigi, and the second time he laughed when I pointed out he was bowing to a 5-year-old, he said. This made Shibi laugh and Shino look at Naruto in awe. You call Hokage-sama Gigi? Why? He asked. Naruto smiled at Shino and explained it to him. Yeah, I call him Gigi, and I do it 'cause that's what he is, an old man. Sure, he could probably level a mountain with a single jutsu, but that doesn't mean he isn't about ready to drop at any time, he said, causing Shino to gasp and Shibi to laugh again. He is so much like the both of you, it's unreal. I hope you are looking out for him, Minato, Kushina. It was then that they heard a noise in the alley they were walking past. Naruto activated his eagle vision and looked into the alley. He could see 3 red men advancing on a gold person who was being restrained by another red man. He deactivated his dojutsu and looked at the 2 Aburame. Would you be so kind as to wait for me a moment? I have something to take care of, he said. Shino was confused, but Shibi knew what he meant. Would you like some help? He asked. Naruto shook his head and turned towards the ally. No, I think I will be fine, but thank you for the offer, he said as he walked into the ally. It took him only a few seconds to sneak towards the men. It was then that he saw the gold glow had been a woman who looked to be in her early 20s. She had violet hair and pupil-less brown eyes. Her hair was done into a ponytail, and she wore a brown trench coat, an orange miniskirt, a slash and more like a belt, and a mesh bodysuit. Walking towards the men, Naruto heard one of them say, Come on, Anko, just a little fun. We all know your reputation and you know you'll enjoy it. The now named Anko spat in the man's face and smiled darkly. How about you untie me and I have some fun kicking your ass, she said. The man wiped the spit off his face and looked at her. Well, we offered you the chance to partake willingly, now we have our fun anyway. It was then that the 4 men felt a wave of killing intent strong enough to make a Kage shit a brick. Turning around, they saw Naruto. Hey, isn't that the demon brat? What's he doing here? The man who Anko had spat on asked. Who cares? He's a fucking 5-year-old. What can he do? The man holding Anko asked. His answer was a foot to the face, sending him into a wall and knocking him out. The 3 remaining men watched in horror as Naruto walked over to their fallen comrade and slammed his foot into the man's balls, crushing them with 2 audible pops. The men shuddered while Anko smiled darkly. Naruto reached down and grabbed a knife from the down man's belt and looked at the 3 remaining men, who shit a brick when they saw that his normally blue eyes had turned red and gained slit pupils. He walked over to Anko and in one swift movement cut her restraints. You okay? He asked, looking at her. Anko smiled and nodded before saying, Yeah, I'm good. Naruto then looked at the 2 men and smiled darkly. Okay, who's next? He asked. Hearing this, 2 of the men turned to flee, only to be stopped by their legs falling from under them. Before they could react, they got the same treatment as their fallen comrade, followed closely by a stomp to the face, knocking them out. Naruto turned to look at the last man, who was noticeably shitting himself, and said, Would you like the honors? Anko smiled and nodded before she walked over to the man and casting a genjutsu that made the man think he was being castrated over and over again before she slammed her foot down, popping his balls. She turned to Naruto and smiled. Thanks for the save. They put chakra suppression seals on the damn rope, she said. Naruto smiled and said, No problem. So you're Anko, right? He asked. Anko nodded and he said, Nice to meet you, Anko. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. As the 2 of them walked out of the alley, they saw Shibi and Shino waiting for Naruto. Sorry about that. It took longer than I thought, he said, rubbing the back of his head. That's okay, Naruto. I'm just glad you're safe. Same to you, Anko, Shibi said. Anko smiled and said, Thank you, Shibi-san, and thank you, Naruto-kun, she said, patting the young boy on the head. With that, she placed her hands in the ram sign and shined away. Naruto and the 2 Aburame set off soon after, walking the short distance to the Aburame clan compound. When they arrived, Naruto was introduced to Shino's mother, and the 4 of them sat down to have dinner together. Minor time skip equals. The next day, Naruto awoke in a sweat again and growled. It was then that he remembered what he was meant to have done the previous day. He quickly got dressed and walked to the Sandame's office. Hey Gigi, you said to come by today for the first payment from the orphans fund, he said while activating his dojutsu. He saw a gold glow that looked like a seal on the wall. Walking over to it, he placed his hand on it and ran chakra into it. There was a poof of smoke and Naruto was holding a scroll. The Hokage was stunned. It was at this time that Anko knocked on the Hokage's office. May I come in, Hokage-sama? The Sandame looked up for a second and said, Enter. The door opened and Anko walked in. Hokage-sama, I wish to ask you for Naruto Uzumaki's address, she said, before the Sandame could ask why. Naruto spoke up. Why do you want my address, Anko-chan? He asked. Anko turned around and nearly dove at Naruto, hugging him to her chest. The Hokage laughed for a second, then he saw the side of Naruto's face turning blue. Anko, you may want to put him down before you suffocate him, he said, still laughing. Anko blushed and chuckled as she put Naruto down. Sorry about that, Fishcake-kun, she said, causing the Hokage to laugh again and a tick to appear over Naruto's eye. My name means Maelstrom, not Fishcake, you crazy lady, he almost growled. So when did you meet Anko, Naruto? The Sandame asked. Before Naruto could answer, Anko said, Naruchibi-kun saved me for some ass-hats that wanted to have their way with me yesterday. I'm sure you've heard of the 4 men that were brought to the hospital with ruptured testes. The Hokage paled and looked at Naruto. That was you? He asked. Naruto put on an innocent look. Nope, I don't remember popping 4 sets of balls yesterday, he said. The Sandame looked at Anko, who said, Well, technically he didn't pop all 4 sets, he let me have 2. This caused the Hokage to laugh. It was then that he remembered what Naruto had done. Naruto, how did you know there was a seal there? I've never noticed it, he said. Naruto shrugged and said, I don't know, Gigi, I just knew it was there, he said. He looked at the 2 items in his hand and saw a letter that was addressed to the current Hokage. Hey Gigi, the letter is addressed to the Hokage, he said as he passed the old man the letter. The Sandame opened the letter and proceeded to read it. To the current Hokage. Hi, my name is Minato Namikaze, and if you didn't already know, I was the Yondaime Hokage. I placed this scroll within the seal in my office when I was still Hokage, It contains one of my last requests. That request is to allow the finder of said scroll to keep it. They are my kin and this is their inheritance, so please leave the scroll in their care. And if it's you reading this, Gigi, I hope you are looking after my son. Yours, the Yandame Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato, Minato Namikaze. As the Hokage read this, a smile appeared on his face. He looked at the scroll and saw the Uzushio symbol on it, and instantly knew that it was Kushina who had written it. Well, Naruto, looks like you get to keep the scroll, he said. Naruto looked at him and smiled. The Hokage reached into his drawer and threw a small envelope at Naruto. That is your first payment. Come back next week for the next and come by if you need anything. You can go whenever you want, he said. Naruto smiles at him and said, Thank you, Gigi, see you later. And with that he took off running and jumped out of the Hokage's office window. Both the Hokage and Anko ran to the window and looked down to see Naruto walking down the stair laughing. Well, Hokage-sama, looks like he got us, Anko said while laughing. The Hokage smiled. Indeed he did. Anyway, Anko, here is your mission, he replied, handing Anko a scroll. Anko nodded and shined away, leaving the aged Hokage alone in his office. He gets more like the two of you every day, he thought to himself. When Naruto got to the bottom of the stairs, he decided to put his new free running skills to the test. Spotting a dumpster with a couple of boxes in front of it, Naruto took off running. Hopping from the boxes to the dumpster, he ran at the wall, grabbing a loose brick, then another, and before he knew it, he was on the roof. Looking around, he saw an enclosed seating area and a water tank. Running at the bench in the enclosure, he used it as a step to reach one of the support beams on the enclosure, which he used to get him to the edge, where he swiftly pulled himself up and stared at the clouds. Laying on his back watching the clouds, Naruto was content. Hell, he was even happy, something that didn't happen much. It was at this time that he thought he felt the presence of someone approaching the roof. Turning slightly, Naruto looked over the edge of the and saw two people walking up the steps. Both were a little on the round side and both had brown hair, though one was about his age and the other older. He assumed they were father and son. His assumption was proven right when he heard the young boy say, "And then they said the whole Akimichi clan was fat and slow, Dad." Looking at the boy, Naruto saw he had brown spiky hair and two pink spirals on his cheek. He wore blue sandals, beige shorts, and a yellow top with what Naruto recognized as the Akimichi clan symbol on it. The boy's father had red spiky hair, and he wore blue shinobi sandals and a black suit completed with armor that has the clan symbol on it. He also wears a rope belt, hand guards, and instead of a forehead protector, wears a piece of cloth tied around his head. He looked down at his son and smiled. "Don't worry, my son, those other children will never have half the heart you do," he said. Naruto smiled at this and went back to cloud watching. About 5 minutes late, Naruto felt the presence of another person approaching and looked to the stairs to see who it was. He saw a boy with black hair ties into a spiky ponytail. He wore a gray t-shirt and shorts with black sandals. Noticing the two Akimichi, the boy said, "Oh, sorry, didn't think anyone else was up here. You mind if I join you?" he asked. The Akimichi boy smiled and said, "Not at all," causing the newcomer to smile and sit down next to him. "My name's Shikamaru Nara, what's yours?" the now named Shikamaru asked. The Akimichi smiled and said, "My name is Choji. I'm from the Akimichi clan." "Nice to meet you, Shikamaru." Shikamaru smiled. "You know I like to come up here and watch the clouds. You want to join me?" he asked. Getting a nod and smile from Choji, Shikamaru stood up and walked to the other side of the bench before laying on his back with his head sticking out from under the little wooden roof. He was soon joined by Choji, who offered him some potato chips. "Wow, you're right, this is peaceful," Choji said. Everyone on the bench was surprised when a voice came drifting from the roof of the seating area. "Yep, it sure is," Naruto said. Recognizing the voice, Choji's dad smiled. "Oh, Naruto, when did you get here?" he asked. Naruto chuckled. "Not long before you and your son did," he said as he dropped down from his hiding place. "Sorry about that, I didn't mean to eavesdrop," he said while rubbing the back of his head. "How did you get up there?" Choji asked the question on his and Shikamaru's mind, causing Naruto to smile. "I climbed." "You want me to show you?" he asked. Getting nods from all three people, then Naruto repeated the process he used to get up to the roof. Everyone was surprised by what Naruto had just done, none more so that Choji's dad. "How did you do that without using chakra?" he asked Naruto, who shrugged and smiled before replying. It's not that hard, just a matter of timing. He then smiled and looked at the water tower. After a few minuets of inspection, Naruto had planed a route to the top from his current position. Walking over to the edge of ledge, he looked down at the other three and smiled before turning and running at the tower. Planting his right foot on the water tank, he propelled himself up to grab a small protrusion on the tank. He then reached up with his left and grabbed a small lip above him and used his strength to pull himself up to it. Grabbing a pipe next to the lip, he climbed up it till he was at the top, where he deftly pulled himself up and sat with his legs over the edge, looking down at the other three people on the roof. Looking around, Naruto spotted a small pond. Hey Nami, you think that's deep enough to stop me from getting hurt as I jump from this height? He asked the voice in his head. The response he got made him sweat drop. Only one way to find out, Naruto. You'll just have to jump with that. Said images of men in hooded robes jumping from great heights into anything that would stop their fall enough to prevent injury flashed through his mind. Is a little warning before one of your lessons too much to ask? Naruto asked Nami rather irately. Do you want a lesson on how your ancestors died? No? Then shut up and jump, Nami replies with a hint of anger. Naruto sighed before standing and looking down at the other people on the roof. Hey, race you to the bottom, he shouted. There was a moment of confusion, then three sets of eyes widened in understanding as they saw Naruto take a few steps back before running and propelling himself from the water tank and off of the roof. Shikamaru, Choji, and his father all ran to the edge of the roof just in time to see Naruto land in a small pond behind the building. They looked for a few minuets and let out a collective breath when they saw him pull himself out of the pond. I think I'll take the stairs, was all Shikamaru said as he turned and started walking towards the stairs. When they reached the bottom of the stairs, Choji, his father, and Shikamaru found Naruto pulling himself out of the pond, smiling. Well, that answers that question, Naruto said to himself, chuckling. Choji's father was about to ask what Naruto meant but stopped when Naruto closed his eyes and started channeling his chakra into his cloth's hair and making a thin layer of chakra over his skin. When his chakra had permeated everything, he shook slightly, and to the surprise of the others, he was dry. Where did you learn that? Choji's father asked Naruto, who smiled. I made it myself. Well, I adapted it from a comic, and it's Western. It's a comic I read. Why do you ask, Aburame-sama? Naruto asked. Choji's father smiled and said, I was just wondering. Naruto, don't worry and call me Choza. Okay, it's not that hard to do, it's just a little chakra heavy, but seeing as the Akimichi use their bloodline to turn body fat into chakra, it should be easy for you, Naruto said, shocking everyone, Choza and Choji especially. How do you know that, Naruto? Choza asked Naruto, who saddened. I learned it the same way I learned who my mother was, hiding from a mob of angry villagers out for my blood. I'm sorry for eavesdropping, but I was hiding in a tree behind the Akimichi clan compound. The huge chakra signatures hid me from their censor Nin, he explained. Choji and Shikamaru were confused as to why a mob would be after Naruto. So you have learned to suppress your chakra to hide from censors then, Naruto? Choza asked. Naruto smiled. Yeah, it was that or face another beating. You'd be surprised what you can learn in a life or death situation, he said, still smiling, though everyone could tell it was fake. Choji was about to ask Naruto why mobs were after him, but a stern look from his father persuaded him otherwise. So Naruto, what brings you to this roof other than cloud watching? Choza asked. It was then that Naruto remembered the scroll in his pocket. Oh yeah, I was coming up here to read this, he said as he pulled the scroll out and looked at it properly for the first time. It was a foot long and 3 inches wide. It had an orange center stripe with 2 light blue outer stripes, and it was sealed with the symbol on the back of all Konoha flak vests, the Yuzushio symbol, in blood red. Looking at the seal, Choza's eyes widened. That's the symbol of Yuzushio no Sato. Told you X3, he said, stunned that Naruto had a scroll with that symbol on it. Yuzushio? Naruto thought to himself. He was answered by Nami. Yuzushio no Sato, the village hidden in the whirling tides. Hidden village of Yuzu no Kuni, the land of whirlpools, a small island nation off the coast of the land of fire, home to the Uzumaki clan. Or at least it was until its destruction. Naruto was about to ask who destroyed his ancestral home but was stopped when Nami spoke again. Uzushio was renowned for its prowess in Fuinjutsu and Kenjutsu. It was fear of those prowess that led to its destruction during the Second Great Shinobi War. The survivors were scattered to the four winds upon its destruction. This includes your mother. Naruto was stunned. You know who my mother was? He asked Nami, whose response was to chuckle slightly and say your mother was called Kushina Uzumaki. She was the previous Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. She was a fiery red head with dark blue eyes and a fiery temper. This combined with her red hair earned her the nickname Red Hot Habanero. As a child she came to Konoha to become the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi and enrolled into the Ninja Academy where she said she would be the first female Hokage. Making her classmates, while some of the dumber ones mock her, that was until she napped and beat the living shit out of them, Nami said in a happy voice. Naruto was about to speak when Nami spoke again. About a month later she was kidnapped by Kumo Nin, who wanted to use her special chakra. As they were escorting her to Kumo, she plucked strands of her hair to leave a trail for anyone trying to save her to follow. As it turns out, the only one who even bothered to look for her was a young blonde child who she thought was a wimp. She was proven wrong when the child saved her and kicked 7 shades of shit out of the Kumo Nin. When she asked the boy how he found her, he said that he had always admired her red hair, Nami said in a slightly wistful voice. Naruto smiled internally before Nami spoke again. As she grew, she became renowned for her skill in Fuinjutsu, Kenjutsu, as well as her unique ninjutsu style. She had Tenken make her a sword imbued with the Kyuubi's chakra. The name of the blade earned her one of her nicknames on the battlefield, Akatsuki, the Red Death, Nami said, and with that Naruto was brought back to the real world. Shikamaru and Choji were staring at the scroll while Choza shocked. Choji finally asked too, so where's Uzushio, Dad? Ivy never heard of it. Before Choza could answer his son's question, Naruto spoke. Uzushio Gakure no Sato, the village hidden in the whirling tides, hidden village of Yuzu no Kuni, the land of whirlpools, or it was until it was destroyed in the Second Shinobi War. Its citizens killed in fear of their skill, those not killed were scattered to the four winds fearing for their lives and those of their family. Naruto said, a lone tear escaping his eye, missed by Choji and Shikamaru but not Choza. How do you know all of this, Naruto? Choza asked, surprising his son and Shikamaru. I learned it the same way I discovered who my mother was, hiding from a mob out for my blood, Naruto answered, getting suddenly sad. Hey Nami, now do I open the seal on the scroll? Naruto asked, the voice in his head once again worrying if he was losing what little sanity he had. It's a blood seal. Just bite your thumb and run some blood over, Nami replied. Naruto did as told, and the seal started to slowly burn away. He opened the scroll and started to read it. Hello Naruto, if you are reading this, then my worst fear has come to pass. The seal weakened during childbirth and my burden was once again let loose into this world. This means that you now hold the burden I once contained, as I couldn't let some other family louse a child when I had one of my own to take the burden upon themselves, but that's a matter for later. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Kushina Uzumaki and I am your mother. Naruto looked at the scroll with a smile on his face before he continued reading. This scroll will help you come to terms with your burden and your heritage. Within this scroll I have sealed what is left of my blade Akatsuki, which I recommend you take to Tenken the weaponsmith to be reforged. Books on sealing written by your godfather. A scroll to teach you the Uzumaki Kenjutsu style. A scroll on what I know of our clan history. A scroll to teach you the Uzumaki clan jutsu. A special training regime as well as the supplies you will need for it. A scroll to teach you a special bunshin jutsu only usable by others with our burden, of which there are a total of 9, yourself included. The plans to the hidden blade. Thought there will be more info on that in the clan history. Naruto smiled at the fact his mother had left him so much. If you have found this scroll, you have already unlocked your bloodline, so I'm not going to include any information on how to unlock it, though there will be info on it in the clan history. Designs for an outfit worn by many of our clan before our destruction. Plans for other weapons that will help you in your life as a ninja. A scroll to teach you Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, which will help you in your training. It will be in the first seal, and I recommend you master it before you do anything else. And lastly, I have included what little I could salvage of our clan treasures, and Naruto know one thing above all else. No matter what happens, I love you. As he read the last sentence, Naruto smiled wider than he had ever smiled before. Chuji and Shikamaru were stunned at what they had heard, but chose a smile almost as widely as Naruto. Just like Kushina, he said, causing Naruto to turn his head in an almost owl-like fashion. So you knew Mom then, Choza-sama? He asked. Choza smiled. Yes, I was at the academy at the same time as her. I'm ashamed to say I was one of the many people who laughed at her when she said she would be the first female Hokage, and I was also one of the people who gave her the nickname Red Hot Habanero, he said. After hearing this, Naruto burst out laughing. So you're one of the people whose ass Mom kicked when she snapped? Naruto asked, stunning Choza. How the hell did he know about that? Choza thought to himself, his eyes going wider at the time he heard of an all-you-can-eat buffet at his favorite restaurant. I'd take that as a yes, Naruto said through fits of laughing. Choza smiled before saying, Yes, your mother kicked my arse. You know, you're so much like your mother, it's scary. Earning a smile from Naruto, Chuji suddenly had an idea. Hey Dad, did you ever spar with Naruto's mom again after that? He asked, causing Choza to stiffen and give Chuji a no ice cream for a month look. Yes, I did, he said, hoping to escape the coming embarrassment. So what happened? Chuji asked Choza, who sighed. She kicked my arse again, he said, making Naruto laugh again. Well, as much fun as this has been, I've got some stuff to do, Naruto said before smiling at the three of them. Been nice meeting you, Chuji, Shikamaru, Choza-sama, he added as he started to walk away before his stomach growled. Hey Naruto, you got time for some lunch at Ichiraku's? Choza asked. Naruto stopped dead, turned and ran at speeds that would have made Guy green with envy, well greener, with a shout of Ramen! Choza chuckled and said, Yep, just like your mother, before smiling as the four of them walked away towards Ichiraku's. About halfway there, Naruto spotted a familiar pair of brown buns walking down the street. He was about to shout his friend when he saw a man grab her and throw he into an ally. Racing off towards the ally, Naruto grabbed the scroll and opened it. Looking down the scroll, Naruto found the seal containing the broken remains of Akatsuki, and withdrew it from its seal, grabbing the hilt in one hand and the broken blade in the other. Naruto quickly sealed the broken portion of the blade back into the scroll before channeling chakra into his legs for a speed boost. Turning the corner to the ally, Naruto saw a sigh that made him see red. The man Tenten pined to the wall with a kunai to her through. So your father want to help the demon, does he? Well, let's see how willing he is to help when his daughter lose her eyes, the man said, bringing the kunai further up Tenten's face, causing her to stiffen and tears to come to her eyes and Naruto's anger to rise to levels he never knew possible. Tightening his grip on the sword, Naruto growled at the man, threatening his friend. Let Tenten go, you fucking coward. If you want to fight someone, fight me, he growled in a more harsh voice than normal. The man turned towards Naruto and saw his normally blue eyes had turned red. So you came to save the girl, did you, demon? The man, who Naruto now recognized as the ninja he fought a couple of days ago, asked as he let Tenten go and turned his attention to Naruto. The man threw the kunai and Naruto was about to dodge it when Nami spoke to him. If you get hit that you can hurt him without legal repercussions. Naruto smiled at this info and took the hit from the kunai in the shoulder before running at the man and sweeping the broken blade of Akatsuki diagonally across his chest and planting a foot into his stomach. Looking down at the man, Naruto frowned. Wasn't one ass kicking enough for you? He asked the man, who spat in his face before saying, Fuck you, demon. Naruto's anger rose at this before he growled at the man. I told you before, I'm not a demon or a monster. You are. You're the one who attacks a 6-year-old girl because you couldn't beat me, and why? So that her parent will hate me and help you try to kill a fucking 5-year-old for something that happened on the day he was born, something he had no part in? How many times do I have to beat that fact into you fucking idiots? 'Cause I sure as hell can't seem to explain it simply enough for you, he all but shouted at the man. The man grew suddenly angry. Fuck you, you say you're not the demon, but hen, why do you fight? How are you so strong? And how did you know I was going to hurt the girl? He asked, anger obvious in his voice. Naruto just shook his head. I knew you were going to hurt Tenten because I was walking down the street and saw you threw her into the ally. My strength comes from training and 5 years of fucking idiots like you trying to kill me and beating me to within an inch of my life. And as for why I fight, you were going to hurt one of my friends, and if you ever try it again I will end you, he said, growling at the end. The man still wouldn't have it. You lie, you are the QB, the creature that took everything away from me, the monster that killed my family, he said, starting to cry. After hearing that, Naruto walked over to the man and placed his hand on the man's shoulder. I see, so that's why you hate me. You couldn't fight the Kyuubi, you could not save your family. You see me as the Kyuubi because you do not want to accept that your family is gone and you were powerless to save them, that there is nothing in this world for you to take your vengeance on. But don't you see? Revenge just breeds hate and pain, which begets more revenge. It's a vicious cycle. I know that you must have truly loved your family, but it was not me that took them away from you, it was the Kyuubi, the demon sealed within me, my tenant, my burden, my power and my curse. I am truly sorry for what it did to you and your loved ones, but taking your anger out on me, my friends and my loved ones is not the answer, Naruto said, looking into the man's eyes. The man looked up at Naruto, shocked by the maturity of the 5-year-old before he broke down crying. Tenten was shocked at what she had just heard. So Naruto has the Kyuubi sealed within him and most of the villagers hate him for it. But why don't they know that every day he is alive he protects the village and the world from the fox? I'm guessing it's the civilians who hate him and ninja who lost people to the Kyuubi. The civilians I can accept, not knowing anything about sealing, but the shinobi, they should know better, she thought. The man, having recovered, looked at Naruto. I am truly sorry for any harm I have done to you over the years. I see the truth now, and I thank you for opening my eyes. I doubt you will ever be able to forgive me, but I will do whatever it takes to earn you trust and respect. My wife used to be a tailor, and I have a clothing store. If you ever need new clothes, I'd be happy to make them for you. I know many shops won't serve you, and those that do almost without exception charge you premium prices for antiquated products, he said, standing and bowing low to Naruto before turning to look at Tenten. I'm truly sorry for trying to harm you as well, young one, he said, bowing to her. After seeing this, Naruto had to restrain himself from doing an impression of a fish before he smiled at the man. It's okay, I forgive you for trying to hurt me and thank you for the kind offer. You're right, with the exception of the Ichirakus and probably Tenken, I think every other shop I go into ever throws me out or charges me stupid prices, but it's up to Tenten if she forgives you. So what's your name? He asked. The man smiled and said, Sora, my name is Sora. The now named Sora said. Tenten smiled. I forgive you as long as you don't try and pull that crap again, she said, earning a smile and an I promise from Sora. It was then that the group heard applause from the end of the alley. Turning, they say a group of about 20 ninja, all armed with Ningata, Tanto, and katana, except for one man, stood at the front of the mob armed with an oversized halberd. Activating his eagle vision, Naruto cursed under his breath, noticing that the mob was all red. Deactivating his dojutsu, Naruto turned to look at Tenten. Seeing that she had a kunai in each hand, he reached up and grabbed the kunai still implanted in his shoulder, and pulled it out with a grunt and throws it to Sora. I think we're going to need your help on this one, he said, earning a nod from Sora. Naruto was about to run at the horde when he heard Nami speak to him. Naruto, make the hand size dragon, burr, ram, and then throw your hands forwards while thinking of restraining the mob. Smiling to himself, Naruto dropped his sword and ran through the hand signs that Nami had just told him and slammed his palms forwards before his eyes widened in shock. Flying from his palms were chains of blue chakra. Said chains fly at the mob and restrain them, causing Naruto to smirk. Sora, could you do me a favor and go get the Hokage? Naruto asked. Sora nodded and disappeared using Shunshin no Jutsu. Naruto turned to Tenten and smiled. Well, looks like we don't have to fight them this time, he said, earning a smile from her. You looks like it. How did you learn that jutsu? She asked. Naruto was wondering what to tell her when Nami spoke up again. Tell her it was on a scroll you found. Naruto did so and got a nod from Tenten. The two of them were about to talk again when there was a swirl of leaves showing someone had entered the alley via Shunshin. Immediately Naruto and Tenten dropped into defensive stances while Naruto did the best that he could while still keeping his hands facing the mob. There you are, Naruto, I've been looking everywhere for you, a worried Choza said, looking at the young blonde. He then noticed the chakra chains and gasped. When did he learn that? He wondered before looking at the mob and scowling. Well, looks like I found out why you disappeared, he said. Naruto smiled. You sorry about that, he said. Choza smiled at the boy before turning to the mob and running through hand signs and saying Kanashibari no Jutsu, causing the mob to stop struggling and fall to the ground. Seeing this, Naruto realized his jutsu and dropped to his knees panting, causing both Tenten and Choza to start towards him with worry written on their faces. Damn, I feel like crap. Naruto moaned as he stood up again, cracking his neck and looking at the mob. He let out a low whistle before adding, I have got to learn how to do that, earning a chuckle from Choza and Tenten to roll her eyes. Can't you ever be serious for just a moment? He said before hitting him upside his head. Naruto was about to respond when the Hokage and a contingent of 20 ANBU shunshined into the ally, followed seconds later by Sora. What happened here? The Hokage asked, looking at Naruto and noticing he near exhaustion. Naruto smiled before replying, Oh, you know how it is. I decided to take a walk and saw Tenten. I rushed over to say hi before bumping into those nice people over there and decided to show them a good time, he said with sarcasm lacing his voice. The Hokage just rolled his eyes and muttered something about damnable genetics. Tenten smacked Naruto upside the head again, and Choza had to stop himself from laughing. Naruto rubbed the back of his head where Tenten has smacked him. What was that for? He asked, glaring daggers at the girl who just laughed. Sora decided to speak up before the two of them started to argue. He turned to the Sandaime and bowed. Lord Hokage, I can give you a full report when we return to your office, but if I may, I suggest Naruto and Tenten be allowed to leave before they start to argue, he said. The Hokage nodded before turning to the two children. He was about to tell them they could go when he saw Naruto pick up Akatsuki from where he had dropped it and seal it back into the scroll he had taken it from. It took him a few moments to regain his composure, after which he smiled at the two children. You can be on your way if you wish, Naruto, Tenten, he said with a smile at the two of them. Naruto smiles at the aged Hokage before turning to Choza. Well, I'm sorry to have caused you a problem, Choza-sama, but I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to get to Ichiraku's with you, he said before passing out from exhaustion. Before he hit the ground, he was caught by one of the ANBU. Choza walked over to the ANBU and took Naruto from him. I guess using that jutsu took more out of him that he let on, he said, smiling down on the boy. He turned to the Hokage and bowed slightly. If you will excuse me, Hokage-sama, I will take him back to his apartment, then escort Tenten back to her home, he said, earning a nod from the Hokage. He placed his hand on Tenten's shoulder and shunshined them to Naruto's apartment. If you would be so kind as to wait out here for a moment, I will take him inside and be back shortly, he said, walking up to Naruto's door and pushing it open. He waked into his bedroom and gently laid Naruto on his bed before turning around and exiting the apartment. When he got outside, he placed his hand on Tenten's shoulder and shunshined her to her family home. Today was the day Naruto would start his training. He got up, had a shower, had some breakfast, grabbed the scroll he had found in the Hokage's office the day before from his room and sat on his couch, opening the scroll on his coffee table, and unsealed the scroll with instructions on how to do the Kagebunshin no Jutsu, and started reading. The Kagebunshin no Jutsu is an A-rank kinjutsu that allows you to create tangible clones with your chakra, capable of doing any jutsu you can do, including the Kagebunshin no Jutsu, and causing physical harm to your enemies, though one good hit will dispel the clone, he read aloud to himself. He smiled to him at the thought of an army of himself, all of whom could perform jutsu at once, drastically increasing the destructive potential, before he continued reading. The reason this jutsu is a kinjutsu is the fact that it divides your chakra evenly between yourself and your clones, so only someone with ungodly levels of chakra or a jinchuriki can use it en masse without succumbing to chakra exhaustion, and that whatever your clone learns, sees, hears, tastes, smells, or feels will be sent back to the original and be stored alongside their own memory for the same time frame. This could cause mental feedback and turn the user's brain to jelly once again. The only people who can use this memory transfer to full effect are jinchuriki, due to the healing effect that their tenant's chakra has on their body. This jutsu can also be used to train at an accelerated speed due to the memory transfer. For example, if two clones in the original do the same training, when the clones were dispelled, the user would gain 3 times the knowledge, though physical training cannot be transferred by this jutsu. After reading this, he let out a low whistle. Well, that should help with learning jutsu and chakra control, he said to himself before he read how to do the jutsu. Minor time skip. 1 hour later, Naruto was sat on his floor panting with a huge smile on his face. Well, that was easy, he said to himself, and he stood, grabbed the scroll and closed it before placing it on his previously empty bookshelf in his bedroom and muttering, "Well, let's see what's next." As he was about to unseal the next scroll, there was a knock on his door. Grumbling to himself about people interfering with his training, he grabbed the scroll and stuffed it in his pocket before activating his eagle vision and looking through the peephole in his door. Seeing that the person in front of his door was blue, he deactivated his dojutsu and opened the door, revealing a female ANBU in a Nico mask. The ANBU had long purple hair and wore the standard ANBU uniform. "Hello, Nico-san, what can I do for you today?" Naruto asked with a smile on his face. He liked Nico because of all the ANBU tasked with Naruto's safety. Only a handful of them actually did their job. Most just ignored the mobs beating Naruto to death while some of them joined in. But only Nico, Inu, Karasu, Tori, and Tora ever actually stopped the mobs attacking him. Nico smiled under her mask, though Naruto couldn't see it. "Hello, Naruto-kun. I'm afraid the council has called a meeting and you have been called again," she said. Naruto smiled and said, "Okay, just give me a few minutes to get ready and I'll be there," he said as he turned and walked into his room and shut the door. As soon as his room door was shut, he placed his hands into the cross seal and whispered Kagebunshin no Jutsu. He was rewarded with a large poof of smoke and 10 clones, causing him to facepalm. "Note to self: work on chakra control," he muttered to himself before unsealing the training regime scroll and the scroll containing all of the equipment needed for the training and passing them to one of the clones. "Go to the usual training ground and follow the instructions on the scroll," he told the clone, who nodded and was about to jump out of the window when he stopped, unsealed the training weights and passed them back to the original. "I think it's best if you use these, boss," the clone said before it jumped out of the window. Naruto smiled and strapped on the weights, then dispelled the other 9 clones and placed the scroll back in his pocket before changing into his council meeting clothes. "I don't see why they don't just give me a seat on the council. I'm there for almost every bloody meeting anyway," he muttered to himself before walking out to the waiting Nico. "Well, let's see what the Honorable Council want this time," he said as he put on his sandals. Nico nodded and placed her hand on Naruto's shoulder before using Shunshin no Jutsu to teleport the two of them to just outside the council chambers. As Naruto was shown into the council chambers, he put on his masking smile and prepared for another attempt to get him banished, killed, spaded, arrested, or turned into an emotionless killing machine. He was getting sick of this shit. Seriously, if they try to pull that shit this time, I will tell them where to shove it. I'm getting pissed off with being the council's fucking whipping boy, he thought to himself, not expecting an answer. "About damn time you started to stand up for yourself," Nami said with a chuckle, making Naruto absent-mindedly nod to himself as the door to the council chambers was opened and he was led in. "So what am I meant to have done this time?" Naruto asked with all the patience of the 5-year-old he was. "Know your place, Gaki," a certain pink-haired banshee screeched, causing most of the people in the room to shiver and grab their heads in pain at the volume, while Tsuma Inuzuka growled, "I know my place. I'm just getting fucking sick of you people dragging me in here for shit I didn't do, so you can try to find an excuse to have me fucking well killed. Now, as I was saying, what the fuck am I meant to have done this time?" Naruto asked, turning a chuckle for most of the shinobi council, a cough from the Hokage to hide his laugh, and a full-blown belly laugh from Tsuma. The Hokage coughed again to get everyone's attention. "Naruto Uzumaki, you are accused of assault, battery, theft, and attempted murder," the Hokage informed Naruto, who gave him a WTF look followed by a large amount of killing intent filling the room, scaring the civilian side shitless and surprising the shinobi side. Naruto took a few deep breaths to calm himself, and the killing intent slowly receded. "Okay, so when am I meant to have committed these acts?" he asked when he finally got his anger under control. The Hokage looked at a sheet of paper on his desk before looking back at Naruto and responding, "Yesterday, at approximately midday." He then looked back at the paper and frowned. "I'm sorry for wasting your time, Naruto, you may go," he said, surprising the civilian side of the council. "Why is he being realized without questioning or trial? Why are the charges being dismissed?" one of the civilians asked. "Because I was in the Hokage's office between 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock, Naruto answered before adding, "Where was this assault meant to have taken place?" he asked the Hokage, who looked down at the piece of paper again. "Near the west gates in the shopping district," he answered. "Well, I can prove I in the east of the village from approximately 12:15 till 1:30, and I have witnesses." Naruto said, earning a growl from the civilian council. One of them glared at Naruto before asking, "And how can we trust your witnesses?" Naruto just smirked at the man. "Well, if you're saying a member of the Shinobi Council and the sons of 2 members of the council aren't trustworthy, then how about you try the fucking mob that attacked me and the daughter of Tenken the weaponsmith?" He shouted, earning dumbfounded looks from the civilian side of the council and smirks from both Chuza and Shikaku, who had been told by Shikamaru of the meeting between Naruto, Chuji, and Shikamaru. "Is this true?" the Hokage asked, turning to look at the Shinobi Council. His response was a nod from Chuza. "Yes, Hokage-sama, myself, my son Chuji, and Shikaku's boy Shikamaru met young Naruto on a roof on the east side of the village at approximately 12:10, after which we conversed for approximately half an hour before we set off to have lunch. During the walk to Ichiraku's, Naruto disappeared. When I found him, he and a young girl who I later found out was Tenken's daughter were being attacked by a mob of approximately 20 men, all armed and intending to cause them harm. After finding Naruto, I cast a high-level paralysis genjutsu on the mob, at which time you appeared on the scene with a detachment of ANBU after a jounin by the name of Sora informed you of the attack," he said. The Hokage smiled at Chuza before turning to the civilian side of the council and letting louse an almost ungodly amount of killing intent. "So you falsely accused a child of attempted murder?" he growled out, making most of the civilian council shit themselves before he turned to Naruto. "You may go now," he said in a voice straining to contain how pissed off he really was. Naruto, for the first time in his life, was scared of the Sandaime, so he quickly bowed and left, actually feeling sorry for the civilian council. It took him 20 minuets to get home. When he did, he took the scroll out of his pocket again and unsealed then next items, a scroll containing books ranging from funinjutsu to cooking to books to help with his handwriting, as well as some sealing supplies. All in all, there was about 20 books. Naruto smiled and created a clone and passing him the scroll full of books before telling him to go to a different training ground than his other clone did and make a clone for each book. It was then that a thought hit him and HR took the scroll back from the clone, unsealed all the handwriting and calligraphy books as well as the sealing supplies and put them on a pill next to his chair, and returning the scroll to his clone, who saluted and jumped out of his window. The next items Naruto unsealed were the Uzumaki clan jutsu and kenjutsu styles, a fighting style based around the usage of a small blade extending from the wrist called a hidden blade, the designs for the hidden blade and designs for an outfit worn by members of the Uzumaki clan. /n cough * assassin's robes * cough. Well, no point opening the kenjutsu or fighting style without the weapons, so I think I'll send a clone to get the outfit made, Naruto thought to himself before he made his new favorite hand sign and created a clone. He looked at the designs and smiles, recognizing them from the memories Nami showed him of his ancestors. Still smiling, he passed the designs to the clone and told it to take them to Sora's shop to get him to have them made. He also threw said clone his wallet Gamachan with a warning that if it spends any money on ramen, he will cause it great pain. The clone quickly nodded and left through the window. Naruto smiled at his clone's antics and sat back in his chair before unsealing the next item in the scroll. With a poof of smoke, a scroll with the kanji for jutsu appeared. Opening it, Naruto discovered that the scroll in fact held a much larger scroll containing all of the Uzumaki clan's jutsu as well as a few scrolls containing jutsu made by his mother. He smiled and placed the scrolls on the seldom-used bookshelf in his bedroom next to the scroll on the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu before unsealing the next item. The next item in the scroll was a scroll with designs for the hidden blade, throwing knives, plans for upgrades to the hidden blade, allowing it to have a small container of poison that when used will cause madness and death to the victim, as well as a function that fires needles laced with the same poison, and a list of the necessary ingredients and steps needed to make the poison. This caused Naruto to smile sadistically at the weapon plans, seeing how useful they would be for making people think you are unarmed when in fact you could kill them in a simple flick of the wrist. He placed the plans on the pile of books next to him, that he now dubbed the For Me Not Clones pile, before unsealing the next item. Naruto's smile warped from a sadistic one to one of pure joy when he saw what the next item was. Laying in front of him was a scroll with the kanji for precious on it. Slowly he reached for the scroll and unrolled it, showing that it also contained storage seals. Smiling, he unsealed the first one and gasped at what he saw. In front of him was a beautifully tooled sheath for an ingata with the Uzumaki clan crest emblazoned in red on the onyx black sheath. Naruto very carefully laid the sheath down and unsealed the next item from the scroll of Uzumaki clan treasures, only for his eyes to widen in awe at what he saw in front of him was an ornate dagger made of what appeared to be high-quality chakra metal. Basically the dagger you get with the armor of Romulus, but not made of bronze. Smiling again, he tucked the dagger into his waistline and continued unsealing items. The next seal contained 3 items. A belt with notches that looked like they would fit the throwing knives and the designs earlier, as well as a hidden sheath for the dagger. It had a large stylized A with the Uzumaki symbol within it, and a smaller shoulder-mouthed holster with 5 holes for throwing knives. The belt thing on the assassin's robes and the shoulder thing for knives form AC1. As well as a small scroll that upon opening contained 3 pouches to attach to the scroll, each labeled with a kanji on, with the kanji for smoke, another with the kanji for poison, and the third with the kanji for money on it. He smiled and put them to one side, knowing that they would be used as they were intended to be, and unsealed the next seal. Naruto smiled sadistically at what appeared from the next seal. It was a small crossbow, obviously designed to be used with one hand, and a quiver of bolts, as well as a strap to mount the crossbow and quiver onto your back, and like it is in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. He smiled sadistically, and he ran his finger over his new toy, and his smile widened when he found the plans to make more before he placed the plans on the pile next to him and placed the crossbow and quiver next to the sheath before unsealing the next and last seal on the scroll. The last items made his eyes widen. One was a headband with the Yuzushiho symbol on, backed with pale blue. The other was a pale blue cape with the same symbol on it, obviously designed to be hung over someone's shoulder. He ran his hand over the cape, and was surprised at how soft it was. He smiled and folded it gently, and placed it on his table before unsealing the next item in the main scroll. From out of the seal came the 2 sections of the broken blade previously owned by his mother Akatsuki, the Red Death. He smiled at the blade and placed the 2 broken sections of the blade onto one of his old t-shirts, and wrapped it in the top before placing it on the table and going back to the scroll and unsealing the last 3 items. One was a scroll with the word inheritance written on it, the second was the Uzumaki clan history, and the final was a scroll with the kanji for Baijubunshin. Placing the clan history and the inheritance to one side, Naruto opened the scroll with the instructions on how to perform the Baijubunshin no jutsu, and read-thought it before forming a Kagebunshin and throwing it the scroll with instructions to practice the jutsu before placing the clan history scroll on his bookshelf and opening the inheritance scroll. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw the amount of seals on the inside of the scroll, each with the kanji for 10,000 next to it. He quickly unsealed the first of about 10 seals and placed the money into the money pouch before grabbing the sword and leaving to go to Tenkin's to get his mother's blade reforged and to check if he can make his other equipment for him. Chapter end.